Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike at Filmboy24, and well, if you're wondering what this odd-looking mix of eclectic-looking items is on my desk, well, I'm doing something that I've been wanting to revisit for a long time, probably a little over a year now, and I'm finally getting to it. Like I mentioned in the intro, this is something I've kind of been wanting to revisit for, well, almost a year and a half now. You see, back in March of last year, I took 10 Super 8 cameras and I put one roll of film through each camera. Not 10 rolls of film, one roll of film switched in between every camera. In case you haven't seen that, I'll put a link somewhere up here, and I'll also put a little clip here, so kind of refresh your memory if you have seen it. I used 50D, Vision 3 50D in that film, which is my absolute favorite film of all time. And I wanted to use 50D again for this go around, and I was upping the camera count to 15, and I was all excited, and then it hit me. I realized it's summer in Florida, and it's 95 degrees out with 100% humidity, and you don't do a lot of filming in Florida in the middle of the summer, especially with 15 different cameras. So I scratched the idea of going outside and filming everything out there and literally taking morning till night and sweating and just cameras, condensation and all. If you live in Florida or in a very humid, hot state or country, you know what I'm talking about. You walk out from the AC into the heat and instantly your lens fogs up and everything in your camera gets condensation and you gotta wait an hour or two before you can use it. So I changed my plan from outside to inside. Now, in hindsight, I guess I probably should have waited, and I love filming outdoors, and things came out much better when I did it last time around, but that's okay. We decided to put the camera, me and myself and my inner self, decided to put each camera essentially kind of like right where the camera is right now, filming me now. I set a tripod up. I took 15 different Super 8 cameras. Some of them are the same model, but they're physically different cameras. A lot of which I used the first go around, and I added some into the mix, like my little Yashica Electro 8 that we've talked about before. I added my 514 XL, my little Canon that I love to shoot with. I added this camera that my beautiful sister Lori sent me from Indiana, this old Gaff SS250 XL. We added that into the mix. And why do I have one of my all-time favorite Shin-On cameras? I have my 200/8 sitting up here on the desk for some reason, and well, we're gonna find out. Dare I say my thumbnail was a little misleading, but not really. I did use 15 cameras. I took one roll of film, this particular roll here, 7213 Vision 3 200T, and I shot it in 15 cameras. The problem is, this one, that's always been reliable for me, it's a fun little camera. When it came time and I processed the film and I scanned it and I started going through it one at a time, I noticed that there was nothing for this camera. And now I kind of remember now having the film in here and it seemed to be running, but maybe a little sluggish. So I think what happened is this camera wasn't actually turning the film, because I went from whatever it was, camera, I have a list here. This was camera number 9, and I went from camera 8 to camera 10. So this was just gone altogether. So when you see 14 different cameras, this was number 15. I got nothing out of it. So we'll have to kind of dig into that and find out exactly what happened. I don't know. It worked fine on my last video. Now I will say, with the tripod setup, every camera was a little bit different. They sat up, some sat up higher than others, a couple of them didn't actually mount to the tripod very well. This was one of them. And I almost had to just hold it real steady, push down against the tripod and hold it. Everything was shot on full auto. Everything was shot under the same lights that I'm using right now, which are 100 watt LED daylight balance bulbs. Everything was shot at 18 frames per second. I did 2 shots per camera. I did roughly 10 millimeter and roughly 20 to 22 millimeter focal lengths. So you'll see that in a minute. Now, at about 6 feet away from the subject, some of them are not actually in good focus, especially the close-ups. A couple of the cameras are focus-free lenses, so I don't know if maybe I was too close to the subjects, or I will say that I started this little project at about 8:30 at night and finally finished at about 2:30 in the morning. So maybe about halfway through, the cameras in my eyes were, you know, I don't know, focus issue. Be aware that some of them are way out of focus. You'll still see the frame lines. And speaking of the frame lines, this is kind of a neat project simply because it's interesting to see what different cameras will give you. In other words, you got the frame and then you got your perforation. Some of them are perfectly centered like this, like that. Some of them are like this. Some are like this. So every camera's gate is a little bit different in sort of, you know, in respect to the way it pulls the film down. Some may pull it down a little lower, some leaves it a little higher. You'll see that in a minute. I'm not changing it. I will say I did sort of do a very quick color grade across the entire film. I didn't cut scene by scene and grade each one, just so you can see kind of how everything turned out as one big cohesive piece of film. Non-cohesive, cohesive. Before I show you the film, I'm going to go through very quickly the camera lineup. So what I would do, I started with a blank sheet like this. Well, it wasn't really blank, it had 1 through 15. And then I would write the first camera. I would set this in front of this. I forgot to mention, yeah, this is what we filmed. This is not a cheesy little gadget garage sale here. We got a mug, a journal, some film. I just put some goofy items up here that were colorful, and I thought when we were using color film, let's use colorful items. I also didn't use an 85 filter in any camera, and I did that on purpose. I know tungsten film, daylight bulbs. I did it because, first of all, I'm shooting 200T, indoors, minimal lights. I have 1, 2, I have 3 lights above. I have 1 here, 1 here. I didn't use a backlight, and I have a light right here, giving me some, you know, sort of side light here, a little fill light. I didn't use that. So my light was restrictive. So I didn't use the filter because I didn't want to lose that half a stop. I figured I could easily color correct that the white balance in post, which I did, and it was very simple. So I gained me about a half a stop. Some of it's over, some of it's under. You'll see in a second, but we'll go through this list really quick. I would write the first camera down, set it in front, film it for about 2 seconds, take this away, 4 seconds, zoom in, 4 more seconds, do it again, right camera 2. This way, in post, I knew which camera was shooting what. So let me go through the list really quick, and I'll show you a picture of each camera as I go through it. We started with a Canon 1014 XLS #1 cam. I have 3 of those, so that was #1. A Shinon 20 PXL. Then we went to a Yashica Electro 8, or the YXL Zoom 25. Then we went to the GAF 250 XL. From there we had the Canon Auto Zoom 814 electronic, one of my favorites. And then on to the Bolex 150 Super. God, I sound so weird. Then we went back to another Canon 1014 XLS, we'll call that #2. Then we went to the Zenit 1X8C-2, the Russian-born camera. Then on to the Shinon 200/8XL that we got no images from. From there, we sampled the Elmo 1012S-XL, great little camera. Then the Canon 514 XL, love my little handy pocket camera. Then on to the Shinon 132P-XL. If you don't remember, that's my Kodak 40, the one that greatly overexposes everything. From there, the Shinon 60 SMR XL. You'll notice that one in the video. I believe that's the one that flickers really bad. We definitely had some gate issues with that one. Then #14 was the Yashica Super 40. Lastly, we finished up with the Canon 1014 XLS #3. That's my list. And like I said when I was going through that list, the Shinnon 60 SMR had some issues as well. I had some problems with my Shinons. They were were always my go-to cameras, but I had some issues with them. That particular one, you're going to see in a second, it's not editing, it's not scanning, it's the camera. It flickered really bad, so it wasn't seating properly in the gate. Anyway, with all of that, keep in mind, it's 200T, it's quite grainy, but I'm going to show you the film. It hasn't been stabilized, so the perf moves a little bit. You will notice the perf stays to the left side center pretty much the whole time, so as the frames move up and down, you can tell different cameras. I'll put the name of each camera above the start of that camera's footage. Without any more of this, here's the film. And that's it. You know, if that little experiment taught me anything, which it didn't, but if it did teach me anything, it's that it's time to let go of some cameras. I have about 30 Super 8 cameras. 15 of them, as you could see, well, 14 of them worked okay. I'd say 10 of them worked okay. It's time to really start clearing out some of my clogged up mess and get some cameras that really, really work well. I've got some Niso cameras, I got a bunch more Canons, a lot of cameras that just don't function properly. Time to let them go, let them go. Time to start cleaning house. And I will say, the longer that these Super 8 cameras sit around unused, I know there's a lot of people that love to collect them and they have these Walzo cameras and it's beautiful, but you're doing them a disservice by letting them sit. If you have Super 8 cameras, get them out and use them. That's the way to keep them running. Keep the batteries out of them, and keep them running. That keeps the belts going, the gears going, it keeps the mechanisms alive. Well, you have a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun with this goofy little video. I know I did. If you did, do that for me. Hit the thumbs up button. It helps the channel a little bit, and it sort of helps the algorithm. You could also consider, you know, doing, you see that? Let me look at it right there. Consider subscribing if you feel like I've earned it. I would greatly appreciate it. And until the very next time that I see all of your stunning faces. Yeah, that includes you. You know who I'm talking about. I'll see all of you on the very next go-around.